will be data types and variables. Let me just talk about what is this data type and variables, and then we'll start working on the examples. Okay. Data type means classification of your data. Say data can be information. The information can be of any format. Say for example, data can be as a number, it can be as a date, text, or say true or false, or it can be any objects. Now I'm classifying these data types so that the data what I'm actually storing in the memory, it is utilized in a proper way. Unnecessarily I am not wasting the memory space. So if you want to utilize the memory space, what I have to do is I have to categorize it so that it will be more optimized way of storing the information in the memory. Let's go here. I'll show you what are topics we'll be discussing. See here, these are the topics. Say I'll send you this presentation as well so that you can go through all these things. So I was talking about data types, that is categorizing of your data, and then how to utilize the memory space. And I also talked about the classification, that is based on values and objects. Now let me go to this different type of data types what we have. I was talking about numbers. When I say numbers, say I can use byte or integer or long or single and double for decimal numbers or decimal or currency. So when I say number, if the value what I'm actually using is up to 255 characters, then I can use byte. Suppose if you think that anything going beyond this, then I can use integer, that is up to 32,767. Suppose if you think any value is going beyond this, then I'll go for long. These three data types what you see is for whole numbers. Whole number means no decimal numbers. Suppose if you want to have a decimal numbers, then I can use either single, double or decimal. Okay, fine. Next, suppose if I'm using a text, then I can use this string. Then if I have true or false, then I can use this boolean. Then suppose if you want to work on date, then I can use this date, say data type. The next one, I have objects. This we'll discuss in the coming sessions. These objects are like workbook or say worksheet, pivot tables, these kind of things. Then next is variant. Suppose if you don't know any of these data types, so what data type I have to use for a data what I'm using for program, then I can use this variant, right? Okay. Next, when can I use these? So how to decide the data types? What I'll do is this slide I will explain you while writing the program itself. Okay, fine. So there are few more slides which you can go through, and this I'll be explaining practically, because what is variable and all these things, instead of explaining theoretically, what I'll do is I'll show you practically so that it will be more easy to understand. For reference, you can use this PPT. So what I'll do is I'll just go here and I'll open an Excel file, and then we'll start working on this data types and understand how these data types practically work. Okay, let me save this first. Always, as I tell you, have the habit of saving the file in the beginning itself. Right, say okay. New patch, say save. Right, now we'll start writing the program. Let's say Alt F11, Control R. We'll rename the sheet. Let me make it as WKS data type. Here I'll say WKS data type. Right. Let's insert one module. Say F4. Say mod underscore data type. First, what we'll do is we'll write a macro with the knowledge till we have learned. So till now what we have knowledge, likewise we'll write a program and then we'll convert that into the data type what we are trying to learn today. Let me just have one value here. I'll make it as 100, and here I'll say 200. Now I want the total here as 300, which is in D7. Let me go back. Sub add two numbers. Say WKS range of D7 dot value equals, just copy this and I'll change the address is D5 plus D6, right? Okay. Now what will happen if I run this? See, I'm getting the result. Now let me do some more calculation. Let's say equals this divided by this. This is one more calculation, and I'll do one more calculation, this divided by this. If you want to do this through code, what I'll do, I'll copy this and I'll paste it here. This is F5. Say F5 equals D5 divided by D7. Next step, we'll say F6 equals D6 divided by D7. Let me execute this. I'll press F5. See, I'm getting this result. Let me change the value. You go here. I'm just changing the value here. Now, if I run this, I should get the result based on these two values. Now, let's go and check what is the problem in the program. I'm getting the right result. There is no problem with the program. But the way I've written the program, we can still optimize it. Optimize in the sense, if you go here, see, when I'm executing this program, what will happen is, it will take this D5. To fetch this D5, it will go to Excel, take the value from D5, and then it will start doing the calculation. It will fetch the D5 here, again take D6, and it will put this value adding here. But if you see the next code, again it is saying D5. So what it is doing, to get this D5 value, again it is going here and say, it will take the value, and here it will take D7 and it will give me the result. But if you see, to fetch this D5 value, it is going twice to Excel. To fetch D6 value, it is going twice, and for D7, it is going twice. That means to fetch the same value, it is going multiple times. You have to avoid this. Why? Because to fetching the same value, it is going multiple times. So what will happen is, it is wasting a lot of time. Instead, what we'll do is, we'll take this value once, put this into memory, and then whenever it is required within the program, I'll go and I'll keep extracting the value from memory itself directly. So that will be more faster instead of going to Excel every time and getting the value. So how to do this? The process of connecting the data, the connecting to Excel, fetch the data once and putting it into memory. This process we use data types, that is classifying the data types and using some variables. Let's see how we can do that. The same program will try to convert into the the process what we're actually discussing. Say sub, I'll say add to number, I'll say by using data type, right? Okay. Now first thing is, as I told you, this value, this D5 or D6 or whatever, this has to be stored in the memory. If you want to store that value into memory, what you have to do is you have to create a space. Suppose if you want to have something to store, then I should have some say a container. So that container, what you have to do is you have to create it in the memory. For that we call it as declaration. Declaration means creating the space in the memory. How to create that? For that what I have to use is, I have to use a keyword called as dim. This dim means declare in memory or say dimension. So what it will do, it will help me in creating a space in the memory. That process is called as declaration statement or say declaring in the memory. Now when I say I'm creating a space, there should be a name for that. A name should be available for that space to extract the data. Otherwise, how will I know that where the value has been stored? So that name what I give, that is called as variable name. Let's say num1. This is nothing but it is also an address which will help me in recognizing the space what I've created as Now to specify what kind of data type it is. Why? Because depending on the size of the data type, the memory is allocated. If I'm not specifying what will happen, it will give me a very large space. Again, we are wasting a lot of space. So for that, what I'll do, I'll go here, I'll use byte. Byte is nothing but, I told you, it is storing up to 255. The value can be stored up to 255. Let's go here. I stored, let's say I'm using this num1 to store this d5 dot value. Now I have one more variable, that is one more value, that is d6 dot value. If you want to store that, what I'll do, I'll say dim num2 as byte. So I created one more variable here. Next, this d7 is again used multiple times. So what I'll do is I'll use one more variable total to store the total of d5 and d6. So what I see here, this is called as declaration statement. Declaration means I created space. How many space I've created? Say 1, 2, 3. 3 spaces has been created in my memory. Next is I want to add values to that memory space what I've created. Otherwise, how can I do the calculation? So how to add values to that? For that process, we call as assignment statement. How to assign the value? Say num1 equals. This equals is nothing but the assignment operator. WKS data type dot range of say d5 dot value. Now if you see the value what is there in d5, that will be assigned to num1. Next, suppose I want to assign value to num2. So what I'll do, let me copy the same thing. I'll just name this num2 and this will be d6. Now these two statement what you see, this is called as assignment statement. That means I've assigned d5 and d6 to two different variables. Now let's go here. I have one more variable which says total. Total is nothing but I'm adding these two values, say num1 plus num2. Now if you say this, num1 will hold a d5 dot value, num2 will hold d6 dot value, and total will hold the addition of these two values. Now I have to put the values into d7. That is nothing but num1 plus num2. So what I'll do, I'll go here, I'll take this value, say d7 dot value equals total. So I'm assigning whatever value was there in this total variable to d7. The next one, it says fi. Fi is what? d5 divided by d7. So what I'll do, let me go here, I'll say fi equals num1 divided by total. See, num1 divided by total. So what will happen here? So whatever value is there in d5, that is in num1, whatever value is there in d7, that is total. The next one is f6. Let's say f6 dot value equals num1 divided by total. I'll say this is num2 divided by total. That is this statement. This is declaration statement. This is assignment statement. This is the calculation part. Let me execute this. Let me change the value here because byte will take up to 255 only. Say F5. See, I'm getting the result. Now you might be thinking, this is very easy, only 3 lines are there. And here I have almost 9 lines. So this will be more easier than this. Yes, this is easier. In the beginning, you find it very easier to do something like this. But what if the program becomes bigger? If you think that there are more, say what is that, calculations are to be done, the number of lines will be keep increasing, and for every time you have to keep fetching the values from Excel like this. But in this case, it's not like that. I'm taking value only once, and I'm using the same value which is there in the variable multiple times, and it is very easy as well. Let's assume I want to do one more calculation like this, say equals this minus this, the whole divided by d5. Say enter. See, I'm getting some result here. So some random calculations, d5 minus d6 divided by d5. Suppose if I want to do that calculation in this program, I have to mention here, say h5 dot value equals d5 dot value minus d6 the whole divided by d5. But same thing here, it is very simple. Just go here, I'll say h5 dot value equals num1 minus num2 divided by num1. That's all. See, num1 minus num2 divided by num1. Now the value in num1 is d5 and the value of num2 will be d6 divided by d5 dot value. That's all. When I run this, see, I'll get the result here. So the usage of this declaration of variable is I can use multiple times the value which is there in the memory, and this will be much faster than this program. This way also I'll get the result, but to get the value it will go to Excel every time. But if you see this will go to Excel only once, take the value and put it into memory, and whenever I need it will be keep executing. So for this we have to declare a variable in the memory so that I can utilize the memory space. And defining what kind of data type I'm using, that is also important, so that only that much of space is allocated in the memory. Fine, let's go back. Let me increase this number to 500 and say 600. Let me go here and execute this program. I'll say F5. See, it says overflow. Overflow means the capacity of byte data type is up to 255 only. But what I'm trying to do here, it is increasing more than 255. So for that, what I have to do is I'll go here. Let me copy this. I'll have a separate program. Data type, I'll say integer. The next level will be integer. Let me change to integer. Now let me run this. See, it is getting executed. The reason is integer can take the value up to 32,767. Let's come back. What if I'll increase the value? Let's say I'll make it 50,000 and this one as 60,000. Now if I run this, see, it will say overflow because this is going beyond 32,767. Now let me change this to long. And here we'll change this to long. Long is a very bigger number which is more than 32,767. Now let me execute this. See, it is getting executed. Now you would have understood that why we should actually use this data types, different data types. You might be thinking, why can't I directly take long instead of byte or integer, whatever, so that whatever number is there, I can manage with this long one. But guys, keep in mind, I told you data types are actually used for memory utilization. If I'm using long, what will happen? It will take a bigger space. Let's assume I'm storing a value of age of a person, which will not exceed 100. For that, if I'm using long, what will happen? I'm taking a very bigger space just to save one small value. In that case, I'm actually wasting a lot of memory. So for that, I showed you one slide here saying that deciding of data types. So what I was telling, the data type what you're trying to decide, it is very important because based on your data type, based on your data what I'm using, so I have to decide the data type. Say for example, using this age of a person, that will not exceed say 100, 125, whatever, but that will not exceed 255, so I can use this byte. Integer, say for example I'm working on something, a number which will not exceed 32,767, then I have to use integer only. So I know that it will not exceed this number. If you go to this column numbers, The column number in Excel, it will be 16,384, which will not exceed 32,000. Then I can go for integer. Any value, say row numbers, it is up to 10 lakh. Then I have to think about long. So likewise, so depending on my data type, what I'm actually using, so what I have to do is I have to tell, so what kind of data type I have to use in the program. So let me go here. First decide what is the data, and then decide what data type I can use it in that program. Okay, this is very important. Next, again, suppose if you want to work on string, let's take one string here. Let's say India, and here I want the result India has done sales of. So when I'm writing a program, so when I execute, whatever text I'm using here and whatever total I'm getting here, that should be mentioned here. That is the output. Let me change the number. I'll make it as 550 and so 450. Now when I execute the number, this country name with the total what I'm getting here, that should be added here. So the output should be India and whatever results I'm getting here. Let me go back. Let me take this program. So what I'll do, let me take it as string. Here I'll say dim country as string. Now this is the declaration statement. I declared one more space here to store country. Now for this country, what I have to do, I'll say wks data type dot range of, and what is the, let's say d3 dot value. Then what I'll do here, say d9 wks data type dot range of d9 dot value equals, country is the variable. To display country, I'll say country ampersand has sales of ampersand, and then I'll say total. See, here I'm using this country, that is for displaying the country. Then the total whatever is there, that I'm using here. Now if I execute this program, say F5, say India, and whatever total is there, that I'll get you. This is for using string. Let me say this. Let's assume I'm doing one calculation based on this value, that is decimal number, which is F5. Let's take this here, or we'll take this value only, which is a decimal number again. Say this multiplied by, say 12. See, I'm trying to multiply this value with 12. This is a decimal number. Well, let's go here and see how we can work on decimal numbers. We'll use double. Here what I'll do, I'll take this value, that is dim, we'll take it as val as double. Well, let's assign this value. This value is coming when after I'm doing all this calculation, that is year. So what we'll do here, this value is nothing but num1 minus num2 divided by num1, that is this value. So what I'll do is, instead of doing this calculation here, I'll take it here only. Either way I can do, either I can use this or I can do the calculation here only. Let's say val equals num1. I'll take the same formula here and I'll put it here, and this val whatever is there, that I'll replace here. See, I'm using this double, so whatever value is there, the calculation that will be assigned here, and this one I'm trying to put it in H5, and then here the J5, put it here. I'll say J5 dot value equals val. See, I'm trying to make you guys understand how this double will work. Double is actually a decimal. Now let me delete all this and try to run this program. See, I'm getting this decimal number. What if I use this as integer? See, I made this as integer. Now let me run this. Can you see this? It says 0 because double means it will take decimal numbers. Integer means it is taking whole numbers. When it is taking whole number, let me just make it as double. When this is getting converted to a whole number, it is taking this 0. Then 0 multiplied by 12, this also is becoming 0. So again, I'm telling you, when you're actually trying to decide a data type, make sure that you'll understand what data it is, and then only you have to decide the data type. Let me save this. Let me revise once again from top. We understood the declaration of the statement. Declaration means creating the space in the memory. To extract the data from the memory, what I've done is I've named that memory space. The name of that memory space, we call it as variable, and that variable we have to decide what kind of data type it is. We learned about byte, then we learned about integer, then we learned about long, string, and say double. Depending on the data, I'm defining what kind of data type it is. After declaring, we understood how to assign the values. Assignment statement means I'm trying to put the value which I've created or which I declared the memory space. I'll put that value in that say variable. After putting that variable, then I'll use these variables which I've assigned for calculations. Right. This is for declaration, assignment, and then calculations. Now we'll see the do's and don'ts of these variables. What is the right way of assigning the variable? What is we should take care while assigning or say declaring the variables. Now let me go here. I will take this function and I'll paste it here. I'll make it as 2. Some people have the habit of assigning the variable in single row itself like this. And here, say num1, num2 total as long. If you check this, num1 and num2 are not long. They are actually variant. I'll tell you what is variant after some time. These two are not long. If you want this also to be long, then I have to use as long. Then here I'll say as long. So some people, what they do, they'll take all the variables in one line. See, like this. But if you're doing like this, it is more confusing. If you just check this, see, it is more easy to understand. This is little confusing. But I'm not telling this is wrong. I'm telling this is the best practice. And again, it depends on individual to individual, the programmer, how they actually code the program. Okay, I'm not saying that this is wrong, you should not do like this. It is left to you. But as a good practice, if it is in a single row, it is easy for me to know whether I have declared the variable or not. Right. Let me copy this and I'll put it here. Some people, what they do, they'll not declare the data type. They'll declare the variable, but they'll not declare the data type here. One scenario we saw like this, that is, they have not declared the data type here in the single row. They have this, like this. So these two will not be declared as long. Other one is we saw that they'll declare and there is no data type here. This also is possible. But in two cases, what I discussed, this num1 and num2 is actually considered as variant. Now I'll tell you what is variant. Variant is a kind of data type, what will happen is it will occupy a bigger space and it is assigned internally by the system itself. Because when a program is running the program, when the program is getting executed, the system has to allocate some space to store the value of each variable. But what happens if you're not specified that whether it's a long or string or what kind of data type it is? So what it will do is it will think that there is no data type assigned or say defined. It will create a space, a very big space, because it doesn't know what data type you are storing there. So what data you're storing in that variable. If you're storing a very small value, let's say byte value, what will happen? It is occupying very less space and wasting all the other space allocated. So it is very good practice and necessary that you have to declare a variable with data type. If you're not declaring also, the program will run. But the problem is it will occupy a lot of space wherein it will end up with wasting a lot of space. So it is always better to specify the data type. This is one scenario. Sometimes people will not declare variable at all. Let's say they'll not declare these two variables. Let's say this also they're not declared. Okay, go on top. I'll remove this option explicit. Let's scroll down. Total and country has been declared as long and string. Num1, num2 and val is not declared. Now let me execute this. I'll say fi. Okay, we will say just changing the name because it is a keyword. Okay, see, so fi, it is running. I'm getting the result. But what's the problem here? The problem is num1, num2 and this val, they are considered as variant again because they are not declared anywhere, defined anywhere. So how to handle this? How will I know that the variable which are used here are declared or not? One is I have to go and check manually, but it is very difficult. Here I have only 3 or 4 I can easily recognize. I can check that and I can declare it here. But what if a program is like very big? I don't know how many variables have not declared. So for that, what we have to do is we have to go here and we have to mention option explicit. Option explicit will force anyone, say any program, so that the variable has to be declared. Just now we execute this program, it got executed. Now let's try to execute this. I'll say fi, see, variable not defined. That means this variable is not defined. Let me define this. Dim num1 as long. Fine. Now let me execute this. See, now it is going and checking the second one. So what option explicit will do is it will force the program so that the variable whatever is there has to be declared. Forget about what kind of data type it is. It will force any variable to be declared in a program. Now if you go here, if I'm not using anything like this, still it is fine because here I'm declaring, but I'm not giving any data type, so that is okay. So what it will do, it will consider this as a variable and it will assign its own variable internally. See, it is not checking num1 now because I've declared here, but as discussed, this has to be declared so that the memory is not wasted. If in case if you're not giving this, what it will do, it will assign a very bigger space which is called as variant, which will end up with wasting a lot of space. There are some cases where you don't know what kind of data type I have to give, then it is fine. If you totally don't know what data type it is, then you can use variant. That is not at all a problem. But if you still know and you are not declaring, then it is wrong. Okay. Now let's come back to this option explicit. I'll come on top here. It says option explicit. Option explicit, I told you, it will force a variable to be declared in the program. Now every time should I have to type it. See, right click, insert module. I'm getting it automatically. But there are situations where some people will not get this option explicit. When I'm creating a module, it will not be available. So how to enable that? I'll show you. Go to this tools. I have this options, and here I have something called as require variable declaration. If it is disabled, by default this will be disabled. Say okay. Now let me right click and I'll add one more module. See, I'll not get that option explicit. Let me add one more. See, I'll not get that. Go to this tools and then options, and I'll say require variable declaration, and I'll say okay. Now right click, insert module. See, I'm getting this option explicit. So whenever I'm enabling this, if this is enabled, if I'm creating any module, automatically this option explicit will get created. Otherwise it will not create, or say it will not put the option explicit in any of the modules. But if you are creating any module, when it is disabled, see here I don't have this option explicit. Now after enabling I created, it got option explicit here. So this will not get automatically. So here I have to type, or I have to copy and paste. But it is very much necessary that you enable this tools, options, require variable declaration, so that it will recognize, or it will check wherever the variables are not declared, automatically it will show me, see, variable not defined, so that you can go there and you can declare the variable which are not declared. Okay, so these are actually a kind of data types, variables, and the process how to declare the variable and assign the values to the variables and use this for calculations. Okay, so this is what we have for today. I'll just stop, and we still have a lot of time. If you guys want, you have any doubts, please ask me. I will discuss with you and I'll clear all the doubts what you have.